Alright, afternoon friends. I'm just going to make a really quick tutorial on note entry and basic dynamic and articulation entry on Musescore for those of us that might be a little bit new to the platform, either as new composers or people coming from like a different platform. So first things first, you might open up Musescore and either see a blank page or like the new setup wizard. In case you see like a totally blank page, or you like deleted your last work because something went weird, just go up to File, New, and that will always start the new score wizard for you. Okay, it asks for a title, so I can format it for you. I'm going to title my homework the same thing as the assignment that the teacher gave me. So what we're doing is copying this information into Musescore to get to know the different entry features. Same title as the homework, and then enter the composer's name, which is found over here, and your name. So, you know, we always have your name on homework. So Musescore has different kind of instrument entry options. You could use one of these defaults here, which is like a template for a string quartet or another ensemble, which is pretty cool. Or you could use the choose instrument function, where you actually pick the instruments from a list. So just pick an instrument, hit add, and then you can build a stack of instruments. Once you get a stack of instruments, then you can hit the up or down arrows to change their position in the score. Okay, we're doing basic homework, so we're just going to pick a basic neutral treble clef. It has no instrument associated necessarily with it, because we see in our homework over here we're copying from the treble clef. Okay, if we're a bass clef player, our instrument book should look like a bass clef, and so we would pick a bass clef instead. Okay, piano players would pick grand staff. Next, we check our key signature. I don't see any sharps or flats over here, so I'm just going to pick C major. No sharps, no flats. And then we check our time signature, 4/4, 4/4. In case we want to change this, just hit the up or down arrows. Okay. Or you could change what kind of note equals 1 beat here. Last, how many measures do you want Musescore to give you initially? It'll default to 32, I believe, but I've preset it to 16 for this assignment. Okay, see we have 13, 14, 15, 16 measures. Okay, so then you hit done and you'll get your new score. So first things first, we need to enter notes. Okay, to do that, just click the N with the gnarly little note on the bottom of it. And then check that your rhythm is correct. Okay, so our first note's a quarter note. We've clicked quarter note. And so now what you're doing is lining up and making sure you're getting the right note on the right line or space, essentially. Ideally, you can read this, right? Hopefully we're all very fluent music readers, just like we're fluent language readers in our literature classes, because it's so important to playing our instrument well and also just being very comfortable, right, with music, playing and listening. So if you can read this, then you know that we're entering 2 C's, 2 E's, 2 G's. If you can't read it, in this entry, work on learning the notes of the treble clef or the bass clef, depending on what you're entering. Okay? Like say the note out loud yourself, okay? One ledger line down is C, okay? And the next one is C again. Whoops. Okay? So what we're doing here is using our mouse to enter everything, and that's fine. The faster way, if you can read the music, is actually just get your rhythm lined up with what you're putting in and then type it on your keyboard. Okay, so what I did is my mouse wasn't used. I used to use my keyboard to type in the next 2 notes, G, G. Okay, now we see we got a rhythm change. I'm going to take my mouse, change my rhythm, type in the next note. Again, we got a rhythm change again. Okay, I'm going to switch back to quarter notes. And again, I'm reading this. This is FF, so I'm going to type FF. The next 2 notes are D, D. The next 2 notes are BB. Rhythm change. And that note is G. Okay, you see how fast that is? So really get to read your notes so that you can you can be a ninja entering stuff in Musescore. Alright, so let's pretend you did that now for all 16 bars, including these 8th notes here at the end. Again, remember, all you're going to do when you're typing here is to just make sure that you pick eighth rhythm, and then type in whatever note names they are. Okay? The next thing then we got to figure out is like how to enter all this other information here. Like, what are those? What is this? What is that? No problem. These are all found in your palettes. So visual artists have a palette where they have like their different colors or paint colors, and you can mix them into new kinds of colors, and it basically allows you to make a more beautiful painting. Well, musicians have a palette, composers have a palette, and this is in the form of like our articulations and dynamics and bow markings and things that let us change like how we play the note so it's unique and specific and wonderful and tells our musical story exactly how we want it to. Okay? So we see we don't have a palette here. Like, what's going on? First things first, unclick your note entry so you get a regular old mouse again. Okay? And then go to View and click Palettes. Boom! There you see they appear on the far left side. You also, if you like, you could do a master palette where it's just all the palettes, all the choices in a separate window. Okay, so it's exactly the same as the palettes that live on the left side of your screen, but in a window. Okay, so if you like that. All right, first things first, let's enter these little dots. Those are staccato, and they are an articulation. It's a change to the beginning or the end of how a note is played. Okay, so staccato makes it shorter. And so we go and we find the little dot and we click and drag it to the note we want to connect it to, put it over the note so it turns blue, and then release the click, and there you go. We have a staccato on it. We can do that again. Okay, and so on and so forth. You do it as many times as you need to. We have a lot of staccatos in this music, so you'll do it a lot of times. If you want, this is more advanced, you can learn the keyboard shortcut where again you can type in staccato on your notes, but I won't cover that here. This is just for basic entry and getting started. Okay. The next thing that we want to figure out how to do is enter our dynamics. So we see that we got a P there. And so that's a dynamic. Let's go down to find the dynamics palette. Notice how these are not in alphabetical order. Okay, let's find piano, all right, click, drag, same thing, connect it to a note, because what will happen is as that measure and as that note moves around in the music, your piano dynamic will actually stay with the note. It's like the program glues the dynamic to the note. Okay, so now we got piano in there, good job. All right, the next thing that we should enter, actually, I skipped this, which is our down bow. We need to put our basic bow markings in. That is, again, an articulation. So go down here, find down bow, and again, connect it to that note. The program will automatically stick it above the staff for you. Okay, the next thing we want to enter in bar 3 is up bow, which is one here. Okay, right there. So on and so forth, all right, which is pretty awesome. All right, so then we see the next things that are kind of not articulations, not dynamics. They are, in Musescore, they're called lines. So let's go to our line markings. All right, so the first one we see here is a crescendo. Your dynamics are like an elevator floor, so like there's floor 1 or piano floor, there's floor 2, which is mezzo piano, floor 3 is mezzo forte, so on and so forth. Then inside those floors, you can kind of move around a little bit. That's what your crescendo, decrescendo markings are really good at. They tell you where to move inside a given dynamic level. All right, so we see in measure 6 that we've got a crescendo. I didn't type measure 6, but I'll show you how to enter crescendos and decrescendos anyway. Okay, click the crescendo, drag, like everything. You notice it's kind of like a monkey. It's hanging itself off the top of the measure. It doesn't connect to a note. It hangs off the top of the bar. So I'm going to put it in bar 2, okay? And then once I release my click, Musescore will automatically put it in the place that I want. And then this is just to show you, when you click on the crescendo, the center box lets you move it like kind of up or down. And then also the tail end lets you make it longer on one side. This one makes it longer on the other side. And then this bottom one makes it wider or smaller. Okay, so just wanted to show you those options in case like you've got a situation where like you've got like a low G, or a note that is really low, let's say in the clef, and it might be running into your crescendo marking, that you can change like where it sits, and you can change its length and its width. Okay, so that's one line that you can enter. The next one we see here, measure 9, new kind of line, is this is a slur marking. So it's not under articulation, even though in like Finale and other music programs it is. So just an FYI, slur markings in Musescore are under line. So same as the crescendos, you basically take the slur, and like an articulation, you connect the beginning, you glue it to a note. All right, so let's glue it to this G here. Now you notice when I released it, it basically just automatically connected the end to the next note. If that's fine, you know, to leave it as it is. In this case, I want it to connect to actually, like, I want it to be a 2-measure slur. So I'm going to take the end and I'm going to connect it to this last note of the next bar, and you notice that Musescore has automatically formatted it to go above the staff. Okay, so it'll just do its auto formatting on its own. I release the click, and now this slur will go from this G down to this D. It'll go over these 2 measures. Like the crescendo marking, you can click these different boxes and make the slur either kind of shallower or deeper. You see that I have like an up bow marking I really don't want to run into, so I might make my slur more shallow. If I want to pull it one direction or another, because maybe the stem heads here, or the stems, sorry, are like running into it or weird, I can pull on it and shape it in whatever way I want. Okay? Alright, so we have basically done all the entries that we see in the music except for crescendo and diminuendo. But those again are under, lines actually, okay, because they're volume adjustments. They're not a volume level, they're a volume adjustment. So FYI, crescendo, diminuendo, they live under lines, okay, and so you click on it, you drag it, and you connect it to a note just like everything else. So that should be everything actually that you have to enter in this assignment. You see some cases where you see like you got tenutos and a slur. You enter the articulation first. Okay, so I'll just do an example here. Here, let's zoom out a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to do these two, have tenutos and a slur. Alright, tenuto for you, and then I'm going to go and add, whoops, I'm not thinking, I'm going to add a slur marking. Okay, so I'm going to connect this here. There you go. You see how you can add articulations and lines to the same note, and then the program will just do the formatting for you. Okay, so I hope that was pretty easy to follow, friends. Again, rewind, play, review as needed, and yeah, just get your basic note entry started. Okay, happy composing. And once you feel comfortable with this, just start clicking on stuff and exploring. And my last piece of advice is, once you get comfortable with the basic note entry, like kind of clicking and dragging, look up the keyboard shortcuts for different things, okay? Because again, we type faster than we move our mouse, and it will really make your life as a composer easier, and that makes you able to be a better composer, right? We're always using technology to conserve our energy, keep our energy, so we can put it into our creativity, okay, and make better music, make better art. All right, so look up the keyboard shortcuts to be faster, and I hope that you have a really good time with this.